So, I'm going to start by letting you tee off. I obviously know a little bit about you, but for context, how would you introduce yourself? Because you've had a bit of a mixed background, and you've developed quite a few different skill sets from that. How would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, I suppose I'm creator and owner of This Is Real Limited, which is a fairly new concept and business that's been spawned out of my experience and observations and need to help support local businesses, SMEs, micro businesses, startups, because my background and my experience has involved those in various ways along my career.
What can you tell us about your background? Because I think that's certainly something I've not heard enough about, is what's got you to this stage.
Yeah, it's a bit of a meandering journey, I suppose. But it started with, depends how far you want me to go back. So back in 1986, no, not at all. So I'll just start, and there is an element of why it's important actually, but at university I did a furniture and product design degree. And it was only over the last couple of years I really analysed backwards of why that was a good fit for me actually. Because although I had no major aspirations to be a furniture or product designer, what I liked about that course was the skills in which you learn were quite transferable, but also it was a course that had almost equal measures of being logical and problem solving and analytical, because you've got to think about ergonomics, you've got to think about usability, you've got to think about the psychology of a product or even piece of furniture, physics. You've got challenges and bounds and things that you need to overcome and analyze along the way. And then you've also got a level of creativity within a lot of products, especially furniture. It is about being, creative. So a chair isn't just a chair, especially a design degree. There is a license to be creative and come up with things that are interesting. So I think the fact that it had almost equal 50-50 parts, or how I saw it anyway, in analytical psychology, problem solving, the form element of things, and the function element of things, and then the form in the creativity, it was equal. And that's kind of how I always describe myself, really, is kind of equal part analytical and observant, and being able to pick up the challenges that are there in front of us, but then come up with creativity and ways to think differently, not do the same as everyone else, to challenge the status quo, whatever that is in, whether it's a product, a service, marketing, whatever it might be. So I think that was why that was important. And from there, I learned a hell of a lot in my first kind of employment role and the business. It was in furniture. That I went straight into a furniture and manufacturing business. But again, I wore many hats even as a junior within that business, from organising and running photography shoots, to doing the Photoshop and the graphic work afterwards, to planning exhibition stands, to making sure and liaising with the sales agents to make sure they had all their marketing material. So there was an element of graphics, marketing, sales, obviously organising, project managing. So I did all these things, went around the world doing that, Europe, Far East, etc. So had a lot of experience in quite a short amount of time as a junior, effectively. But those who know me know I'm no good just being sat behind a desk all the time. So I've got to be out there. I love seeing and meeting new people and hearing and being out there, really. So I enjoyed being on the sales side of things. So that's where I then decided to go out into sales.
Well, so am I right in saying that sounds like quite a lucky role you managed to get? Because not a lot of people manage to come out of uni and actually find something that they studied, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I think, I look back on it with mixed emotions, because in my mind, I felt I was there a little bit too long. But at the same time, looking back, I did learn a hell of a lot in a fairly short amount of time. But as a progression and personal ambitions of things to want to progress, etc., there didn't feel like there was a lot more to go up within that business. Yeah. But I do look back, and I'm always pretty grateful and find gratitude. I'm a very positive person overall, so I'll always find the positives of something. So that then led me in, as I said, into then sales, which was a totally different hat, really, and another skill set that I wanted to develop and learn. And I think always feeling like I was entrepreneurial. I think I always had in my mind I wanted my own businesses, but never quite. No one in my family necessarily has. An uncle has, etc., but I'm not close to them. So no one in my direct family or close personal network growing up own their own business, were also entrepreneurial necessarily, but I always felt that was within me, just didn't know how to go from 0 to 1. And I suppose that will come back round, I think. So I guess I then knew I needed to do sales as well. I needed to learn that, because if you're going to have a business, you need to be on the sharp side of the sales. So, and a lot of my friends that were in sales roles, it was, oh, you should go and do sales, etc. Because I'm a people person, like to serve, like to be out there, like to have discussions with people. So went and did that, moved around a few times with different businesses as someone came and approached me and says, oh, you've been doing this for a while. Do you want to come and have a look with this company? And I'm like, I'm not really looking, but I'll have a conversation. A few times I didn't go for it, but others I did. So I did move around kind of every 3 to 4 years in a few different sales roles. Then as COVID came around, I was in a business development role, effectively, or an area sales manager that was being turned more into a business development, on furlough, and had a bit of time. And while that time was actually happening, I'd already put some kind of irons in the fire. I'm looking on acquiring a business with a friend of mine that became a business partner. And this business was an intellectual property business that a lot of its clientele, it had been going for 36 years, and 80 to 90% of the clientele were SMEs, were startups, because the business was a formation agent, a domain registrar. Obviously, there's a lot of people that were coming to this business saying, oh, I need to start up. Now, some of them may never have got off the ground, but a lot of them obviously were the startings of things. Again, comes back to really interesting stuff that I enjoy doing and want to support. Fast forward that business 3 years, we did really, really well to take a business that was failing fundamentally, and the previous owner had retired, to be honest, and done brilliantly well over the years, but was coming to retirement age and didn't quite have the vigor or energy to take it on to its next levels. I felt that we as a team did take it on. We stopped it kind of sitting out cash year on year, turned it around, and we're moving absolutely in the right direction. And it's a brilliant business to this day, and it really is going places. But at the start of this year, it felt that it was time for me to move away, because we doubled down in intellectual property. Yeah. Whereas my passions from my sales experience, from all the things I'd done before, was around independent businesses. When you're out there in sales, you have a lot more interesting conversations with people that are decision makers rather than branch managers or big nationals, etc. And you could see the passions of those people that was family-owned businesses, that were independent retail stores, that were, really proud of their heritage and where they'd come from, having a go at the big nationals as well. So I think for me, I always enjoyed speaking to those independent businesses, which, and I thrived off their passions, etc. So I wanted to help them more. Whether I sold to them or not was kind of irrelevant if I could help them with things that my vantage point could see, because I was out there as a business development, as out there, listening and seeing what other businesses do and being able to share ideas and thoughts. That's where that passion came from.
Do you think that would have happened without COVID? So what I got from at least what you said was like around that sort of time, obviously a lot of things change and fluctuating, and you tapped into opportunities you'd already planted. Had COVID not happened, do you think we would be here having this conversation?
I think it was a bit of a perfect start. I think it was already in motion to happen. It was going to happen. With COVID, it gave us a bit of time. It kind of delayed things slightly, but also sped things up a little bit at the same time, if that makes sense.
Weird time.
Yeah, I think it gave us more time to actually focus and say, right, what we're going to do with this business, and come up with a bit of a business plan, which we semi-executed. But as I said, we took it from struggling to doing okay to then starting to thrive. But we had to learn and adapt quickly, because it was an industry that myself or my business partner didn't really fully know or appreciate. And so although we did build that business plan during COVID before we committed and got the acquisition over the line, it gave us time to do that, but it did slow things down because the world had gone mad for months, if not years. So it done that. But really the whole point of, just to encapsulate my experience and why it was appealing to me to jump into this business, was, one, I really wanted to be an entrepreneur. This felt like the right time to do it. Going into my 30s, I had a great kind of adversary in Matt, who had different skill sets, but a bit of a crossover as well. We felt we could support each other doing that. But the real trigger for me was that it was around independent businesses, mostly startup businesses, smaller micro businesses, SME businesses, that was primarily protecting their intellectual property. but we felt we would be able to go in there and service them with additional services, with help and support, with my background being sales, marketing and strategy.
Yeah.
So that was the plan. As I said, it materialized over the 3 years that we didn't really find a vehicle to fully deliver those additional services. And we decided the best thing to do once we were in and fully understood exactly what we had in front of us was to focus purely on the intellectual property side of things, which was the right thing for the business, which after 3 years and the developments and the progression we'd made, it felt like the right time for me to say, this really isn't the passion project I wanted it to be, which is why earlier this year I decided to pick up This Is Real. It had been kind of hovering in the background, but not having the time to do that, to be able to come back and say, no, this is my passion. This is my personal mission. And then look at ways in which I can help support small independent businesses. And
so I think that's going to leverage off the back of my next question then, because with that being your first proper hands-on experience of grafting, doing it yourself, how has your background and your skill set influenced your approach to business?
I think that's a good question. So I guess my background has been quite varied. So it's been in 3 or 4 different industries, although not wildly apart. And a lot of it's been in either manufacturing or product as well. I then obviously jumped into a service based with intellectual property. So I've had a reasonable mix without it being wild. And there'll be people who've done far more varied things than I have, but there'll also be people that have been really, really tight. So I'd say I was in the middle. And I think having that vantage point, learning, and I've always loved, and something to go back from my design days, is I'd always take things that were successful or interesting over here and apply it in a slightly different way over there. And I kind of feel like that's a thing that, look, experts in any particular one subject matter or topic, fantastic, great. But they're always going to see what's within there and not necessarily have the wider view or vantage point of hovering and analysing what could work over here and adapting it to their own, because you stay in the same, sorry, you don't have that vantage point. You can't know what you don't know, right? So I've always enjoyed the fact that that's something I enjoy doing and something that I, pride myself in analysing and saying, well, this works over here. Why can't I apply it over there? You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just need to make tweaks and see, well, why does it, and analyse why it works. Could it apply over here? So I think from my various experience from, say, furniture days to field sales to business development, being involved in operations, and every business I moved to, I would say, look, they do this really well over here in a slightly different way, but let's take the core of why that works well and let's apply it over to the next business. So I think that's where I've tried to bring it up right up to today. I think it's also been my absolute relentless quest in my hunger for learning more about sales and marketing and keeping up with trends, keeping up with it. And it's funny, some of the core stuff never actually changes, but the ways in which we adapt or mechanisms and techniques and software and technology of how we can achieve and deliver what the core objective is of a business, sales, sustainability, growth. I think that a lot of that has come from just a relentless need and hunger to consume as much information as I can from various sources, to take that in, and have that curiosity, from speaking to people, as well as audiobooks and podcasts and resources on learning best practices too.
Something that I keep hearing about, because I'm hungry for knowledge myself. I seek it from all sorts of different places. And one thing in particular with service-based businesses that I keep hearing is there's one argument that says specialize, stay in your lane, and there's another that encourages the experimentation. I think we've got a little bit of a similarity where if we're inspired by something, we don't just stop at our lane, we kind of want to get our hands on the whole thing. In your experience, would you say that's been an advantage, that's kind of how you're wired to want to do that, or do you see that as any kind of disadvantage when it comes to business?
I think it comes down to the human nature of, if something feels comfortable, we stick with it. Yeah. And there's the old adage of, obviously, if something isn't broken, then don't try and fix it. But it's a bit like, how do you know how good something is? The grass might not be greener, but you can always come back into the same field, right? For another terrible metaphor. But it's a case of saying that nothing ventured, nothing gained. I keep throwing them out here. There'll be some more in there as well.
The last podcast I did, I can't remember how many quotes it was with Dave James. Because the things he talks about, I just get, here's a quote, or I've got it.
Yeah, absolutely. But this is the thing. I think it's, so to go back to the question you're saying, is it advantage or disadvantage? I see it massively an advantage. Whether people that I speak to and I try and share the knowledge and value and thoughts and ideas with are able to then go for it, it's up to them. For me, myself, because it's fairly new concept of what I'm building, I set things up slightly differently. So for me, I think the world is ever evolving in terms of that and ways in which we sell. How you sell now to even 10 years ago, 20 years ago is massively different. Yeah. And I think it will forever keep evolving. Look at the subscription model of things now. People don't buy, growing up, I bought countless CDs and DVDs and everything else because it was ownership and it was the only way you could consume. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, people aren't bothered about the ownership. They're bothered about the result, the benefit. So they're not bothered about owning the CDs per se. They're bothered about listening to the music because that was the benefit that you had from owning a CD. So now you subscribe to Spotify or Amazon Music, etc. So it becomes a subscription model rather than ownership. So your selling techniques have to have to adapt to that. And I'm not saying every single industry, but actually the vast majority. You look at the generations coming through now and how we've all changed our habits. Netflix, absolutely the same. Instead of having DVD towers, when I went to university, that was almost your status. You'd go in and you'd judge someone on the size and the content of their DVD rack that they had in their halls, and you'd be like, oh yeah, he's got Shawshank Redemption, and what's he got over there? Oh my God, you got that film? That's horrendous. Why have you got that?
It reminds me of that scene from Hot Fuzz where he's showing him how to turn off, and he opens that door and he just sees this cathedral of DVDs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's it. So that was almost what I wouldn't say I didn't judge friends on it, but you went in and that was almost not a status. I'm being a bit tongue in cheek here, but it was something that kind of represented you, and it was about the ownership of those things. Nowadays, you just got Netflix, and you've got the hyper personalized, as they call it, system where it's a whole resource and library, but it's not one size fits all. It's the same resource, but it's used very differently depending on your personal user preference. And that's something that I've taken on and adapted with some of the models and things that I'm looking to help support in a very different way. But going back to taking something that works over here very well and trying to apply it over here for various reasons and analysing should it or would it work. That's something I've tried to take on. So I think in terms of adaptability and trying different things from taking it on, I think it is absolutely an advantage rather than a disadvantage. And I think you're only ever going to learn by trying something.
Absolutely.
So you can always make that U-turn. You can always decide actually it wasn't right as long as you're analysing why. Is it timing? Was it execution? Or was it that idea just wasn't quite on the money and trying to understand why?
Definitely. I think the biggest challenge though, because I don't know if you'd agree, but I think certainly from the person who is trying to build that vision, having some level of adaptability and flexibility is necessary. But I think the challenge comes at the point where you've got to have people within that organization. There has to be things that do stay consistent.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because so I think from the person, assuming someone listening to this might be someone aspiring or a practicing entrepreneur, I've taken a little bit of comfort in knowing that it is just generally how the minds of these sorts of people work, that like it is a bit chaotic, but that's also one of the reasons why you have to eventually get people that are just happy to just do the work.
Yeah, so I think going back to something quite finish off in terms of how I've tried to structure my new business, and that is parking services and product to the side for a moment. If you know what your mission is, right? And some people think it's cheesy and cliche, but it's, and I share it publicly, but it's not for the public. It's for me. It's to give me what I call as my North Star. It is or an apex, if you like. It's where I'm constantly looking as something to guide me and navigate me. And I'm saying, is what I do, whatever that is, content, services, products, does that lead towards my mission, right? And a mission for me, and a big mistake that businesses that I've worked for, big businesses, their mission statement, official and big, and spent thousands of pounds with marketing people, actually isn't a mission at all. it's a goal because it can be achieved. For me, a mission is not about that. It should always be able to be improved and go forward and elaborated on. And I think, I can't remember if it's Simon Sinek or one of the books that talks about that. And mission statement, it's a infinity game, right? That's Simon Sinek, where he talks about that's what business is. It's an infinite game. You've always got to keep going. And that's why a mission statement should be that. So that becomes my North Star, as I believe anyone's business should. What your why that you talk about, absolutely, but that's your backstory of what your mission is. That's the reason why you've then stated that that's your mission, whatever it be. We want people to have the best possible kitchens and enjoy that, so they've got value in their house and they enjoy the quality of having a lovely produced kitchen for a carpenter or a kitchen fitter. But it might be all the way down to, we want to make sure people are as compliant and maximize the profits they can make as much as possible legally and stay compliant and ahead of the game when it comes to accountancy. It doesn't really matter, but what is it? And really it should be about the benefits that they get from that as well.
What problem does that solve? How is
100%, 100%.
already in the market?
So for me with This Is Real Limited, it really is helping people discover, support and enjoy quality local businesses. And that's come out and harvested out of all the networking I've done over the years, especially, and that desire and drive to support, I wouldn't say the underdog, because they can be big businesses still, but those that are independent businesses, smaller businesses, micro businesses, entrepreneurs.
Well, I think one of the great things about businesses is you don't have to, I don't know if it's just me, but maybe when you're aspiring and you're inspired by, before you get into it, you're thinking, if I can work with everyone's going to want my service, I can be global. You don't need to be. There are so many people earning a good living, feeding their families, and are 100%. So happy. They have a tiny market, really tiny little bubble of people who just love what they do and they're happy. And that's the advantage to business as well. And I think this is going to sort of lean in slightly to my next question, unless you want to...
just to finish off in case and cut it back in, etc. But when you've got that mission statement and you know what you're driving towards and you know what you want to do, as I say, for my example, it's helping people discover, support and enjoy quality local businesses. The problem that I'm trying to solve there is visibility. So it's marketing and it's sales ultimately, right? And it's strategies around that. So sales, marketing and strategy. By knowing that, all the products and services may evolve and change, and I can come up with new ways in which I can support that, but they're all going to be towards that apex, that North Star of, does it help people discover, support and enjoy their businesses? And then you break down, well, what are the challenges that stop businesses being discovered, supported and enjoyed? Well, it's visibility, it's awareness, it's, and even when they do then get the eyeballs and the ears of the audience that they want to be in front, are they qualifying them? Are they engaging with them? Are they going to actually attract and draw them in? So it is marketing. And then sales come off the back of good marketing. So, is it resonating with them? Is it showing them that the problem is? So I'm trying to then solve two massive problems, right, that all businesses have, which is awareness and visibility, as well as obviously then when you have got visibility, are you marketing well? Are you doing that right process and bringing people on a journey and communicating how your business is going to make their life better in one shape or another? So I think having that North Star means I do not have a 5 or 10 year plan exactly what the products or services I have and the features and benefits within them. But what I can guarantee is however long this business lasts, however long I'm doing what I'm doing, which is as long as I forever see really, because I've got such passion and energy for this, will always be towards achieving that for businesses. More awareness, making it easier to support and enjoy their local businesses. So whatever that manifests itself in terms of service conversation.
One of the things, so a bit of a buzzword, but one of the things that you've mentioned to me, which ties into what you do, is building your own wealth. What does that, I think everyone can make an assumption of what that means. What does that mean to you, building your own wealth?
Whether building your own wealth or kind of the phrase that I have commandeered from a fantastic chap called Richard, he of Canoe, who is a... oh, come on. I need to remember his name now. Okay. Properly do it. Let me go back.
I'll edit this bit.
Yeah, sorry. Let me go back. I need to know.
Sorry, Richard.
Sorry, Richard. Hang on. Why am I having a mind blank? I knew I'd have a mind blank trying to name drop him in.
You've got his company, right?
Yeah. Richard Gray. Right. I'll say that again. Ask me again. I'll say it again. Is it the wealth thing or create your own weather? Because that's where I was going to move it to. So
I wasn't sure if... So you did mean to put weather. I wasn't sure if you were talking...
Did I put wealth? No, weather.
No,
Sorry.
Weather. I wasn't sure if you'd...
No, I meant weather.
I thought you meant...
Yeah, no. So, yeah, that's why I was going to flip it to that anyway. But I've sold it off Richard Gray, so I'll name drop him anyway. So I'll say again. So what do you mean by that? That's what I meant. So
I completely got it wrong. So we'll keep this whole thing in because now I'm more interested. What do you mean create your own weather?
So as I say, I sold it from Richard Gray, who really lovely chap, great consultant based down in Cheltenham under Canoe, if you want to go and check him out. But one phrase that has resonated and has always stuck with me from when we worked with him a few years back was about creating your own weather. And I really like that phrase, and I've embraced it a lot with businesses I speak to. So creating your own weather is when you look and consider of who's the audience you're looking at, who are you trying to serve. And again, it helps obviously if you've got a solid North Star and you know what your mission is and where you're heading. But by creating your own weather, it's like, how do I access that audience? How do I get to those people? Now, the traditional, typical ways in which we market or try and get out, sell and get the awareness is networking. Maybe come back to that in a minute. Advertising, social media, digital marketing, etc., content creation, etc., bringing people in. So to a point, content creation and content marketing is creating your own weather in a way, because you're whipping up a storm to try and invite people who love storms and want to chase your big thunderstorms like we had earlier, etc. But it's really creating your own weather is about saying, right, where's your audience and how do you want to build that, and or strategic partners, right? So how do you get to the multiplier effect? How do you get to one to many? So, for example, if you're Apex Pro Media and you want to do more on the video side of things, well, who else might find that of use to you that have multiple clients already? So I kind of reverse engineer it and I say, okay, think about who's your golden client, who's your absolute ideal client, right? And you sit and you say, in fact, I'll ask you right now, if you could have 12, 20, 100 more of the perfect client that you've had in the last year or so with Apex Pro Media, who would it be?
Well, there was this company called Start.
Yeah. But your absolute golden ideal client that you've done great work with and that you've retained or you've worked with and you'd love to work with that profile of business again.
So the dream is e-commerce for us personally.
Okay. So you've got your e-commerce business and it might be e-commerce with a service or a product?
Product.
So a product. So a few products or quite a long SKU, or doesn't really matter to you?
Doesn't really matter so much, just as long as there's enough demand for it, and ideally it's something that already exists, and we're just and they're just trying to innovate and make chipping out their own little niche. Okay,
love that. So you write that down. It's an avatar. It's not anything new. People have been doing this for a long time. So you write down on a blank piece of paper the profile and kind of the characteristics of your ideal client, preferably one you've already had, right, or you're aware of, and you can actually factually state, right, they're this kind of size of business. They've already got a website. What do I already have? What do they look like? What's that profile? Quite common stuff, right? But now you take that profile and you pretend you're them, and you spider diagram off and you think about all their touch points. So you are now them. So you are, I don't know, medical socks, right? Something slightly niche.
Super niche.
Got it. They've got a lovely range. Okay. So you're now Gary, who runs Medical Socks Limited, right? And you think, right, I'm Gary. Right. Where do I spend my time and money? Okay. Well, I pay influencers that are over here. I have to have my suppliers. I've obviously got my basic stuff like accountant and legal and whatever it might be. I spend money over here, etc. I've got a particular person who does all my artwork or photography, because they're niche as well in doing product shoots for things like that, etc., etc. Okay, so you think of Gary. If you had you've got to imagine and visualize his, profits and loss, and obviously, well, more than profit loss, just where's he spending his money for his business? Where's the resource and time he's spending on that? And when you look back at that profile of Gary, the sock maker, and you see where he's spending his time and money, they potentially are all strategic partners to you, because you've profiled them as a ideal clientele. They've got an e-commerce, they've got various products, they've got a bit of a niche or a super niche, they're at this particular size and this is their particular need or problem that you're going to help solve. and they make a great client. So go and have a think about it. So I'll zone in on one, the photographers that are specific around products, and they're really good at doing that. So if you spoke to Gary and say, Gary, look, I've seen your photography. It's really, really good, actually. Could you make an introduction into whoever does it? So, oh yeah, it's Rachel. She's in Birmingham. Great. Okay. You go and have a chat with Rachel and say, look, Rachel, we've got a mutual client here in Gary. We really, really like your shoots and what you do. Is that something you niche into? If you can't already find the details and know that anyway. Now, Rachel might have 6 other clients. Of those 6 clients, 5 of them might also have super niches where she's zoned in on her expertise on product photography. So now there's going to be 5 others. So this then brings full circle. That is creating your own weather, right? Because you've gone about it, and instead of just turning up to a networking event because the connection you all have is you're all local, you've gone with a purpose to find that person, Rachel in this example, that's a photographer, because you've gone reverse engineered it to get there. That's what I mean by creating your own weather. Going and having that conversation with Rachel that then build the relationship with her might give you multiple things. So it's coming up with strategies in which you're going to find your target audience, but even better if you can find strategic partners that share them, because it's going to be a one-to-many rather than all your efforts being okay, we've got one client on the hook and we can be of great value and service to them, but that's just one. I've got to go and do it again and again. You do that with one brilliant strategic partner, depending on your aspirations and size of business. That might be the only true, real relationship you have to work hard on, because then they can be your referral partner.
Yeah. So, it was the way planes fly over.
Yeah.
This AI can clean up a lot, but maybe not that guy. So I love that concept. My background was not in sales, and I think that's where it's been a bit of a disadvantage, because I've had to learn as I've been going as far as like what we do. So I've been targeting directly to the business owners, which it's a mixed bag, because it depends on how you getting the message to them. Are they aware of the solution that you can provide, or are they just not interested? You know, there's different things. But in my experience, which I'm not sure if you'd agree with, but the businesses that typically you meet that are doing really well, that don't bother putting any money into advertising, they're not doing it because they've built a solid referral network, and now that's either customers who just continuously come back to them, or it's just based on so many of their customers talk about them, they don't need to worry about anything, and in fact they're too busy. So I'm a big fan of like what you of everything you were just trying to say there, and that's definitely something that I've been trying to adapt to now. One of the things has been we're experimenting with some sort of discounted or commission-based ads, because that's the main thing. If we can get that with a company and we can make it work, which it doesn't work straight away, and we don't want to be just taking money from companies when it doesn't, that's what we're trying. Because one of the biggest things, which I'm not sure if you'd agree with as well, is it really benefits a business if you make yourself as easy to refer to as possible, whether that's an offer or a low ticket entry fee or something. So my next question is, I would love to hear, like, what would you say are some creative ways in particular that businesses can really adapt to that and start to make their own weather and build that referral network? Because that's really what we're talking about here.
Yeah. So I think, I think let's wait for the plane again.
It should be okay.
Should be all right. So I think when it comes to building a network, right, and building strategic partnerships, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to go to an organised networking and pay for a membership of a structured, organised network. Or it doesn't mean you have to turn up to ad hoc ones like I run, Biz and Bevs. You know, it's about that. It's about bringing community together, and hopefully people find that. But you can, like I said, reverse engineer it through your client base, because actually that's going to be more purposeful. So however you want to do that, but that's kind of, for me, where networking has its most value, is you're not going there to necessarily go and sell your products, because I don't know about you, Dan, but I've never gone to a networking event expecting or wanting to buy something. So that's when people go to sell, people go and they go to sell, but no one's there to buy.
I think that's like anyone that, sorry to interrupt, anyone that like networks regularly, I think that's we all have that in common where like we see the newbies because they're there and they're just trying to shove a sale down people's throat.
Yeah, absolutely. And through my sales training back in the day, you know, which has evolved since, but again, consuming a lot of it, it's about taking people on a journey. You know, it's not about, hi, who are you? Yeah, okay, you do media, so I need to insure your cameras, so let me insure your cameras. Like, you're like, hang on a minute, you back off. It's counterproductive if I jump straight down your throat trying to make that sale, like you say. It's about taking them on a journey. So I think it's the same again with, you know, building a network is everything comes down to purpose, right? Everything comes down to purpose and need and what your goals are. If you're at capacity, like you say, some of the best businesses, they don't need to put a lot of time, energy, money and effort into advertising because they're at a capacity where they're comfortable or happy with purely on referrals. But that can change quite quickly. And if you're constantly relying on referrals, I feel like, okay, but you're then not communicating how good you are, because you clearly are, because you're being referred all the time. So you are brilliant at what you do, but you're not communicating that in the right places or in the right way in your marketing efforts. Because for me, really, that's passive. That's out there for everyone. It's not circumstantial. Referrals is circumstantial. There's no way around it, unless you basically are paying a sales team or, you know, because they're making it happen to a point. But referrals on whatever network you've built, however you've built it, is circumstantial. It comes up because it's a conversation. I've got a need or a pain point, or I mention it, and then it's worth introducing you to someone. So I think, really in having a network, yeah, you've got to be finding those right people. Trying to remember the exact question you asked. Sorry, so I've gone off on a tangent there. I know what you asked. You said about creative ways.
Yeah, creative ways that people can influence this. And I was wondering if you were going to say videos or if you were going to say, like, have a really nice pitch deck.
I think so. So, I mean, it depends on what the purpose is you're looking for. Are you looking for more leads, or we got loads of leads, so actually we just want better quality leads? So it's about quality rather than quantity. If so, yeah, I do believe that through networking and through partnerships and whatever else, we don't really make it that easy for people. The amount of networking organisation I go to, and it's like, well, how do you refer them? They're like, well, I introduce them in email. I'm like, okay, but as a buyer, if you just introduce me through email, I'm still like this. Yeah. I don't know about them. I don't like them or trust them. Even if I explicitly trust you, you'd have had to tell me a really good story of how you would have to do their marketing for them by telling me a really good story. So unless you are absolutely a customer and client and you align a lot with my business and my needs, I'm not necessarily going to go with them. Mm-hmm. So it depends how close we are when you refer them in terms of how they fit your need or problem, or you're aware of someone who's very close in that profile that we talked about earlier in terms of that. So being creative, ways in which I think we can be creative is, yeah, I think we can find our own weather, but it all comes around who are you serving? Who does your products and service help? Right? And really getting in, empathizing with them, being in their mindset. What do they care about? What do they do?
I'm really into everything you're saying. We've talked a little bit about the marketing, how that plays in. I really like what we were just saying about, because that's one thing that if I'd have gone into business knowing that, of just trying to build relationships with people who already have the traffic of what I need, because ultimately that's what it is. You've got to get your message in the right place where your ideal customer is going to find it. Next thing I want to talk about, which we've been walking around a little bit. At the start, you said sales has changed massively. I'm just going to put my take on it, but you're better at this than me and you've got more of the experience. My take on it is sales hasn't really changed that much from a psychological perspective, because psychology hasn't really changed. Where I've seen the biggest shift from my knowledge of like the history of sales, my experience, and sort of like what I'm observing now, is the biggest thing is how can we reduce the friction in the customer journey? It all comes to like the sales funnel. If we're trying to generate money online, I guess generally if it's a more manual approach, it's all part of a funnel. And how you make that most effective is reducing the amount of friction you can. So someone comes to a website, you want to ideally provide them the information that they've come looking for, because if they've got that intention to buy, they know exactly what they're looking for. They're not there to research. They just want exactly what they're looking for. That's why people don't really read the text on a website. And then what do they have to do from discovery to ultimately purchase with you? Mm-hmm. And the more things you put in place, like for like an intake form on a website. I think typically when we're running ads, we don't see a lot of people fill those in because they're like, I'm going to give the details. Am I going to hear back? When am I going to hear back? And that's one of the disadvantages to service-based businesses, because it's based on relationship. And I think the advice you were giving, although it can factor or does factor into someone just selling a product, it's more transactional. You don't need to speak to the person. But with service-based in particular, it's so much more challenging because in a very real way, you've got to kind of get on with one another. So what's your take on that? How have you seen the big issue?
So I think you're absolutely right. I think in terms of as a consumer or as a business taking on and that element of sales, no, sales is still, I'm going to part way with my money to solve a problem that I have. That hasn't changed. But consumer habits and behaviours definitely have changed. And that's mainly been driven by the access of information. Back in the day, you want a pair of trousers, you'd go to the local high street or to big shopping centre and you'd go out there and do that, and have a look around, browse, choose, have that. Nowadays, and that's why the vast majority of high streets have dropped right off with things like that. Only things you have to do in person: haircuts, nails. I know you go for your nails and stuff like that. But yeah, it's only stuff like that tends to take up a lot of the high street stuff that you have to be there for, right? Because consumer habits have changed. But that's also changed, had a knock on and a wider ripple effect out into there's information out there. There's more options out there. So it's not just I've got a problem and now this is convenient to me because I've parked up and I'm down a high street. Because of the internet, because of social media, because of the access of God knows how much information's out there, I think we do that. But to counteract that, there is fatigue. People don't always like, and as you suggested there as well, people go to a website because they know exactly what they want. It's because they've used Google to know exactly what they want. But that's only a small percent of people at any one time.
That's the percentage who has that intent to buy. That's
right now.
That's the golden target of people ready to give you their cash.
And that for me is sales. That is where you've got to be sharp on your sales. So it's, here's your urgency. Here's your kind of, like you said, if I put that in, it's like, well, yeah, but you see a ticking clock and all the tactics and techniques that websites in particular use, if you want to use e-commerce as an example, of why now and why us kind of thing. And it's looking at, is it why urgent? Why do I need to make this decision, this purchase urgently? Am I missing out on a sale? Am I missing out on a benefit? Is it because that pain point's right now? Well, yeah, I've got a leak. I really need this electrician here right now, whatever, a plumber here right now. Anyway, so sales, maybe not. But I think marketing should lead up to sales. And I think that has changed massively. And you talk about journeys, absolutely. Through sales training, and some of the best in the industry across the world at sales technique and training say about it's qualifying, it's asking questions, it's engaging and resonating with them. So it's almost like instead of them quizzing you on what does it do and how do I get that, you almost want to flip it and you almost want to be saying, well, actually, I don't know if I can help you. Let me interrogate you, not aggressively, but on that before you can then even do that. And that's the journey you take them on. And there might be times where you have to palm them off, but if you can help them still, that's helpful too.
Definitely. But it's like what you were saying, that if you go too hard in the sale, people put their guard up. Number one rule of sales is don't sell to someone who's not in the market to buy, right?
Absolutely.
But that's the question.
Absolutely. So that, and I think that's a big difference between marketing and sales. And I think, again, sales has changed. It absolutely has. Relationships are different, and even in my kind of decade of sales, and I'm not on the front end of sales. I'm not business development and stuff like I used to be, but obviously as an entrepreneur and business owner, I still do. But I think it's a lot more, and to be honest, the ironic thing is if you'd have applied the inquisitive and curious approach of saying, look, I think you might have a problem. I help in this industry, this sector. And I think I'd love to find out how much of a problem you have without being necessarily that blunt, but having that conversation to understand them, to understand their business. How can their business be helped? What challenges they have? Or talk me through this process. Let me be curious about your business. That would have worked forever before as well, by the way. And there will have been salespeople who have done this for a long, long time, but more and more people are becoming conscious about that, so that even with all the information available to a potential buyer, if you're going out your way to actually inform, educate, support them on their needs, and almost accepting that I might not be able to help you, or might not have the perfect solution. I might have part, some, or none. But let's explore that together and let's see if we can help. That almost becomes, although it's sales, and you might be able to make that journey really, really quick and convert straight away, but it might be actually that it kind of is that blurs the lines between marketing and front end sales, if you like. So I think taking people on a journey needs to do that. And it's funny that you get that in all the sales training. You inquire, you inform, you qualify, you drill down on the problem, you identify to them and get them in their words to say back to you what problem they would have if they don't find that solution, right? So you talk about, I don't know, the guy with socks, and he says, well, yeah, I'm just not getting that many people to my site at the moment. I really do need, and what's your conversion rate? Well, it's only really 2% of people that visit your site. So, okay, so let me play this back to you that you're only getting 100 visitors a month. And of that, you're only converting 2% of those every single month. So what does that mean to you as a business owner right now? Oh, well, it's playing on their emotions, but it's only being factual. It's not manipulating in a nasty way. You are just qualifying that you understand exactly where they're at. So if that continues, what does that mean for your business? Well, I'm going to struggle to survive. I need more. I can do market stalls. I can do this, but I really need this to save me time because it's online, blah, blah, blah. So you drill down and get them to extract their emotion attachment to the problem they've got with their business. From there, developing to say, okay, well, what if it turned into 5%? What would that look like for you? How would that make you feel? Well, that'd be good, but it's not quite there. It might feel a bit, okay, well, what if we could turn it to 5%, but also grow from 100 to 300? And what would be the knock-on effect of that? Well, that's exactly where I need to be. Oh, yeah, if I was getting 300 and I was converting 5% instead, fantastic. There you go. And you go, right, okay. So 15 sales a month instead. It's quite low for socks, but anyway, then all of a sudden, so now you've made them think, okay, well, I'm not sure exactly how we do that for you, but I've got a bit of a plan how we've achieved that. And can I show you what we've done over here with a similar-ish business to you and show you the results that they've had over here? Mm-hmm. Now, all of a sudden, you're storytelling now, rather than we do this, this is what we can do for you. But you've also got them to fully identify what their problem was. Whether you convert them right now, whether you say, well, look, maybe we can help you with that, but I'll tell you what, let's pick this up another time and I can send you this bit of free information or bit of value or something that you can do that's a quick fix that might get you part way there. Maybe that's in a form of a free audit of their website. Maybe it's a audit of the ads that they've done previously. It's about serving and again, bring it full circle. It comes back around to having that mission statement. If you really are about helping people maximize their business and value and changing people's lives by giving them a passive income or more passive income through the tools, techniques and strategies that you can apply for e-commerce businesses, then all that conversation is there. And even if you sell to them your highest ticket service or even just bring them on board at a free level initially, you're helping people towards what your mission is.
Yeah. It's actually what I enjoy most about sales because there's a real strategy behind it. And when you understand that, I think as a basic foundation, go in and the goal should be to speak about yourself as little as possible until prompted and just genuinely be interested and ask the questions. But it's what I find most enjoyable about sales is because I am genuinely interested, but in a strategic and tactical way, you bring someone to the conclusion of either becoming aware of the value that you can offer or becoming aware of the problem that they actually have that they weren't aware of. Because once they are aware of that and you've naturally got them there through conversation, they're engaged, they're interested, all you've got to then do is just ask the final question as far as do you want to resolve this problem with me?
Absolutely. And it's a case of using the phrase of giving people an opportunity to buy rather than selling to you.
Yeah.
And you do that by them accepting and actually communicating and almost kind of bringing together the concept of issue that they may or may not have realized fully that they've got. And actually there is a solution that will make their life better for it. Mm-hmm. Right. So it's doing that. And that can be done. So how can you do that? There's a few ways. Marketing. But this is the thing that people have when they use ads and stuff. Even when they get the eyeballs, they've gone from a hook or a reason to engage and go to a website or a landing page, etc. And then they try and sell. Mm-hmm. It's too quick. You would never do that in person in sales if you were any good at sales. You don't just go, I need to chat to you about this product over here. And they go, okay then, right, buy this. Yeah. It's never going to work. You've got to qualify. You've got to take them on that journey and do that. But actually, when we get to digital marketing, we jump at that far too quickly. I see far too much of businesses that will sell. And again, I think people go, no, rubbish, I've done ads and it works for me, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, for the 3% or less that are looking to buy. But how many more would you have got if you'd have actually taken them on a journey that can be fast-tracked to the buy, but also could be said, well, if it's not right for you right now, but here's some value I can offer you in one way, shape or form over here anyway, which then gives you their contact, which then you market to them to then bring them back to a sale when they're ready.
Absolutely. It's one of the biggest challenges with ads because, like you've said, you've got a very small percentage because for someone to want to buy, then they're aware of it. They're aware of what the problem is or the desire they have, and they're also aware of the solution, so they seek it out. And if you get that message in front of them and they like it, you've got a good chance. But you've also got that part of the market where you're either educating them on the problem and the solution that exists, or you're just generally putting yourself out there in a creative way within a market that maybe people already know.
Absolutely. So I think a few golden rules is make it all about them. Make it about them.
Yeah.
You know, how are you, because reality is, and I don't know if you caught it early in the conversation, the reality is no one cares what you do or how you do it. And sorry, Simonson, to a way, I don't think they care why you do it. There is an element of that. And I think it is important to have that background, and you can be endeared to people. You can start to know and like and trust someone because you know their story behind their purpose and reason of doing something. But really, at the core of it, they're not going to buy from you just because of your why, because there's some brilliant backstories and reason why people do it. But if there's no actual benefit for me, there's a great guy who created and launched One Trainers, Simon, can't remember his name. Great guy.
I like him because of the story.
Great story. But at the time and for a while, I've not needed any trainers that I needed. So I love his backstory. And yeah, for you know, when I consider purchasing a new pair of trainers, maybe I'll have a look at Ones. But even with how good a backstory is, if the price point and the need of his products aren't for the thing that I personally want, a wider foot or a breathable, or the price point I'm looking at, with respect, I might not choose him. But he's got a great why, unbelievable why, absolutely great story. So that's my point. They're not going to buy just because you why. It's important, but it's only a tick box in my opinion, right? They care about the benefits for them. So if you can get them to identify the problem that you're solving or the way in which your business or product service is supporting them and the benefits they get, that's what it's all about. So that's the language that should be used all the time. That's the mindset and approach that should be, is what are you getting out of it? And demonstrating ways of, okay, so what are the, I mean, look at the biggest and best brands out there in the world. You know, it's all about, you'll never see top, you know, sports brands like Adidas, Nike, etc. talk about, we have this product, we have that product. It's all about the wider marketing of you want to, it's aspirational in the way in which they market and advertise. I know we're talking about a massive global brands here, but not saying just do it, right?
Yeah. The way I like to think of it is, I forget where I got this, but I guess it ties into branding and marketing, but where you are is on the other side of what someone either wants to, they identify with, they want, or have a need. Your message and your branding is the bridge between getting that person to that thing.
100%. And as I said, something that I really like that Nike does as well is they have a common enemy. You wouldn't know it. They don't necessarily say it out loud. I've never seen a campaign. They might have, but I've never seen a campaign where they properly identify it. But they have a common enemy. Do you know what that enemy is?
No.
Laziness. So they target laziness. So that's why it's just do it. Because it's saying, stop being lazy, stop having apathy and just not getting up and going for that run or going to the gym.
Triggers that emotion in someone.
It is. It's about, come on, just do it.
Yeah.
The enemy is laziness. So not a competitor, not anything else, but something that you aspiration, you know inside you want to do. And I've seen it, like Monday crossed out, Tuesday crossed out, all the way down. And it says some day. It's like some day is not a day of the week. Nike. That's it. It's playing into that. Again, I know we're talking big global and SMEs don't have that capacity necessarily, but actually having that little bit of a mindset of saying, what are the aspirations that we want our clients to feel to? So again, picture yourself as Gary, the sock seller, right? What does he want? Is it status? Is it money? Is it time back, it's normally one of those three things: wealth, time, or status, or a mix of all three. And understanding and empathizing, which comes from the questions. You don't necessarily ask them direct because they might not know exactly or might not be able to articulate that back to you. But the questions in which you should ask to qualify someone to see how you can best help them is understanding where they want to get to, where they want to be, that now, where, how process. And being creative on that is there, but ultimately empathize more with your target audience, understand what it is that they want, understand how then you can help them. And that's going back to when you've got a North Star, that helps you because sometimes it'll be aligned, sometimes it won't. So sometimes you might not be able to help them with your product or service, but you might be able to help them still. But if you're having the conversations or getting into deep conversations, I'm not sure why you're having those conversations if it doesn't somehow align with what you're doing. So,
well, yeah, because I mean, one of the things that I'm sure you'd agree with as well, like it helps to go into things that you're in some way passionate about. Don't just jump into a business or start a business because people are making money, because you start for a reason. And if that reason is just purely financially driven, when things get tough, and they inevitably will, you're going to lose interest. And then what was the point? But what you were just saying directly ties into, if you actually care about what you're trying to do and the people you're trying to serve, naturally you're going to do better and you're going to sell better because you're interested in the people.
And this is what I'm trying to achieve. This is what I want to help people achieve, businesses achieve. Is that something you want to achieve? Does that problem that I help solve benefit you in any way? So for me, with discovery, support, and enjoy, if you're a local business but you're at full capacity, you're a brilliant brand awareness, etc., then maybe I can't help you at this point in time. But I know vast majority of people don't, because I network, and I would have never met them or knew they existed until I, by chance, by circumstance, was in a room with them. So, and yet I know they're brilliant at what they do, whether it's for me as a service or not. Or I love hearing their stories of why they do it or how they do it, or, things that they're passionate about within their business, which will resonate with other people. But if they're only reliant on referrals, they're obviously not communicating that passion, that mission out wider, which then people can get behind. People, you've got to believe in something. You've got to have that values and mission. And I know it sounds a bit cliche and everything, but there's a reason for cliches. And as I said, if nothing else, it should help direct you on then, okay, this is what I want to achieve for businesses, how I do it, and exactly how I understand what level, what products, what services I can do that for people. You're only ever going to know by speaking to your target audience or speaking to businesses your hypothesis suggests that you can support and help because it's a niche, or because it's a sector, or because it's a circumstance that you can help with. But you've got to listen to them. And that's why I don't believe in 3, 5, 10-year plans to that amount of detail, because that might change, or your segment might change slightly, or from constant communication, understanding and curiosity of the people you're looking to serve, you might find a better way of being able to achieve that mission for them.
Which is why it's going to be more of a benefit if you've got the sort of mindset that likes to bounce around on different things.
100%.
Bev, I think this one's come to an end, unfortunately.
No, I think that was quite a good one. I thought that was quite a nice ending,
Very nice.